Yeah, hello there. You're very welcome along to Allianz League's Press Pack Special. I'm delighted to be joined tonight by GPA Chief Executive Paul Flynn. Paul, very welcome. Great to have you in studio with us.
Thanks very much, Damon.
We're not long after Congress. How was Congress 220 for GPA?
Yeah, it was a positive weekend overall. Obviously, we can discuss some of the particular motions and rule changes maybe a little bit later. But from an engagement point of view, from a building relationships point of view, and ultimately for getting the GPA message out there and the player message out there to all the delegates was really positive. So we held a workshop on Friday. Which was well attended, 50 delegates there from all across the country, and we did workshops and expos around the work that we're doing with players, but also then we had Neil McManus from Antrim, Luke Keeney from Donegal, and Shane Carty from Dublin there to bring it to life, to bring what we do for the players on a day-to-day basis to life, and really well received and very well got from the delegates.
Paul, in the build-up to this year's Congress, you had Jarlath Burns was critical of the Gaelic Players Association. He was calling for training to be back to 2 days a week. Larry McCarthy had his own views on the association. So this is all in the lead up to the actual event. But by getting out and about and meeting these people, do you feel that you guys are making progress in terms of how you're perceived, basically, with these people?
Yeah, I think there's a bit of a gap between perception and reality, and people don't fully understand everything that we do for the players. Like, ultimately, the Gaelic Players Association is, the players' body. So, everyone has a very positive perception of the inter-county players and their role models, both in communities and nationally. And this association is set up for them and to help them be, have a balanced life, whether it be with their professional life, their personal life, and their physical life. And to be out and about, to be talking to the delegates, to get an understanding, because equally, these delegates are, in the main part, volunteers, passionate GAA people, and we're all passionate GAA people. So, we're helping a lot of their players on a day-to-day basis, and opening up dialogue, communications, and just getting out and speaking to them about the great work that's being done on both sides is only healthy communications.
Just in terms of the New York president, which is unprecedented in many people's eyes. How will you get on with him, Paul? When the GPA have been in New York and America previously, you've been probably accused, for want of a better word, about the fundraising activities, and a lot of attention put on that. Now, no doubt about all the services that you roll out for your players as well, but will this actually help maybe relationships between the American franchise and the GPA, the American boards? Yeah,
firstly, congratulate Larry and wish him well in the role. And we've had many engagements throughout the course of my short term in this role, and in the main they've been positive. And prior to even his election on Friday evening, we sat down with myself and Seamus Hickey, sat down with the delegates from New York GAA and from USGA, and obviously there's always been a good relationship there, but sometimes it has been strained, and when them guys are trying to fundraise for different initiatives, there does be some tension. However, we were able to come to an agreement, and formalise an agreement between New York GAA, ourselves, USGA and ourselves also. And it's not just about funding, but we will help them with some of the initiatives that they're looking to do. But also we'll open up dialogue, build relationships. One of the things they're really interested in is, for us to send ambassadors over to hold clinics or training sessions for, not just for the kids that are there playing, but also for the coaches, because they do some great work on the ground there, and they're keen to keep the GAA, strong in those areas, and we're willing to help them.
That will build relations, Paul, and if you're giving them a percentage of the funds that you raise over there, that should be a big bridge as well, surely.
Yeah, exactly, and I think it's like, it's really just important us we're all GAA people, as I said, and they have their goals, we have ours.
Did they receive you well, Paul?
Very well, and it was about understanding what their needs were, and it wasn't all just about funding, and I fully appreciate that, and they're great people, great Gaels. Another element of it is when they send over numerous teams, whether it be Féile teams or for other competitions throughout the course of the year. And we're going to twin them now, where possible, with players or with squads, and to do pep talks and to do just to come in and maybe do a training session with them while they're here. Just to really build that experience and a connection, really, isn't it?
Connection, and I suppose it's important. And you're representing your members, and you're part of an overall association as well. What are relationships like with Croke Park and the GAA, Paul? Even with the financial report being released the last couple of weeks. Record revenue streams mentioned, I suppose. It's an increase of 22%, but yet it was highlighted the expenditure, which is nearly 30 million, and the GPA didn't take kindly to that, released a statement. And have tensions been frayed since then between the two groups, or did you guys feel that you needed to make a stand on this issue?
No, I think firstly, to answer to your first question, we have a very strong relationship with the GAA. We work with them on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. We have to, and it's a very professional relationship and progressive. And I think obviously there's a bit of noise in the system at the moment because we're negotiating a new deal for the players. But once that's completed, which I'm confident will be done, sometime shortly, we'll be able to drive on with some really important matters within the game. From our perspective, building a sustainable form of amateurism for a positive player experience is key. And what does that look like? It means that players do have balance in their lives, whereby their physical, their professional, and their personal lives are in balance. But also, where they don't have to pay to play the game. And it's not looking for pay to play, but equally they shouldn't have to pay to play the game when, as you highlighted, we have got record levels of revenue in the GAA this year. And I think and being respected too, their voice being respected. And we don't want to leave or put any more burden on county boards with regards to any levels of funding. And it was actually mentioned at Congress that the county boards don't want that either. However, even in the previous deal, I wasn't in this role at the time, but I was on the negotiating team as a board member, and some elements of it were a burden on county boards. But for this deal, we really want to put the deal to be struck with the GAA essentially, and to support the players. And one of the examples of that is around the nutrition allowance, which is a increase in cost on guys day in, day out. And we're talking about students here. We're talking about guys who are just starting out in their career or saving for a mortgage. So. All in all, I think from our perspective, the deal is about the players, and it's about supporting those guys, maintaining the amateur status of the game. Yes, we're bound to that with our own deal with the government, for instance, with our government grant scheme, and that is all about amateurism and supporting our amateur athletes too. So I just think there has to be a balance when people come and they pay for tickets to a game. They're coming to see the players and the games, and these guys need to be supported.
Where are negotiations at then, Paul? Because I think the previous deal was somewhere in the region of 6.5 million a year, and a lot of people looking in would have said that was too much, basically. But the game has evolved. As we say, record levels of income, but expenditure is going up as well. So where does this kind of stop in terms of how far apart are you guys at the moment from where you need to be? Because negotiations have been going on quite a while too.
Yeah, they're ongoing, and we've been quite good at doing our negotiations behind closed doors, and sometimes things have come out here and there. But I think it's best that we keep them behind closed doors and get a deal done. And as I said, then we can continue to work in a partnership model together, looking at really interesting areas where we have already started to explore, like competitive balance within the game. How can we, put together an equalisation strategy, so that there is an uncertainty of outcome in games, and that there's structures set up like the Fixtures task force, the work that they've done. How can we implement that? And, there's some fantastic findings in that I know there are a number of options that are going to be going on, around over the next couple of months, and it's going to be put to delegates and players and everybody involved in the game, and it's going to be a special congress in September that's going to decide on that. And they're interesting, and they're really important elements that need to be.
Do you guys need to have to up the ante in that regard, Paul, in that your voice needs to be heard at these tables where decisions are being made, and there's not enough of a player voice coming through, really, even from positions like Congress?
Yeah, we've for instance at Congress we've got 2 votes. I think there's over 350 votes on.
That's not enough for you guys.
Yeah, and it's not. You can't really make a change, And I think that's, is that the forum where we're going to be able to make change? I don't know. We do have what is called a joint review committee, where we meet quarterly, and that's a forum where we're 50-50 at the table. They've got the same number of delegates as us, and I think that's if we can use that forum better to really invoke change and positive change for the inter-county games, because I think sometimes things can always be seen to be negative, in our games. I think we've got the best field games in the world, and I think we need to celebrate them a little bit better.
Paul, you broke down the term sustainable amateurism for me, and you explained what it means. Do you think that for the ground member, the grassroots member, when they see kind of phrases like this, that they will understand it?
Well, that's our job to make sure that they do, you know. And I didn't come up with this term on my own. You know, we're a players' association. We're led by players, and it's for the players ultimately. And this strategy that we're gonna roll out a new strategy in April, 3-year strategy, and that's going to be the core part of it, which is sustainable amateurism. But that was all taught from and learned from, you know, feedback, surveys, one-to-ones, workshops, a whole myriad of different ways that we spoke and engaged with players.
So is this a blueprint for the future, Paul, for the next few years?
For the next 3 years, and you know, it's coming from the feedback from the players, and you know, some of the core things that are coming out of it are balance. You know, we've got ample reports and, you know, feedback around, you know, from ESRIs or student reports, and now this strategy is about acting on them. You know, it's not going to be a strategy that's going to sit on a shelf. It's going to, you know, the most important part is going to be the implementation of the strategy and actions that come out of it.
Paul, you mentioned balance there. Is that lack of balance a main reason why a lot of inter-county players have left the scene at a particularly young age? Certainly seems to be the case this year, but it's been like that for the last nearly a decade, I'd say. The numbers have been quite significant. Is that something the GPA is worried about, players dropping off the scene?
Yeah, I think that there's always been players opting in and opting out. And I think that's kind of, you know, it's a crucial way of looking at it, because it is an amateur sport. You know, people have to be free to opt in and opt out if they wish. They could be deselected like that and gone, and they wouldn't have a choice in the matter, and there wouldn't be as much, you know, maybe conversation about it as such if that was the case. So they have to always have that option. The onus is on us is to set it up as, you know, a really enjoyable journey. You know, I was always very proud to play for Dublin, and I was always just privileged to wear that jersey. But it was because, you know, from that high, I was looking forward to, or I wanted to do it. And kids will always grow up and they'll always want to play. If the game is set up, it's an enjoyable journey. They see reward in it, and they see that they can balance all elements of their life, and it's not overwhelming as such, you know.
If you're in a Tier 2 county, maybe it's slightly different, but we might discuss that after the break. It is time for a short break now. There's still a lot more to come up, Paul, so stay with us. Yeah, you're welcome back to Allianz League's Press Pack Special. Paul, you were chatting to me before the break about the joy you felt playing for Dublin, and you know, you won a huge amount and achieved a huge amount, and you worked very hard to do that. Down the tiers, the carrot distance is huge, if we're being frank about it. Will the Tier 2 Championship result in more players drifting away? And I know it's possibly an unfair question because we don't know what's ahead, but what's the feeling from a GPA perspective, having kind of surveyed your members?
Yeah, and like we've been on the record to say, you know, we've been pro a Tier 2 competition based off feedback from players. It hasn't been unanimous, but the majority have, you know, been supportive of it. But the way it was brought in, you know, it wasn't perceived well, and there was a fixtures task force set up. We were involved in that. All the key stakeholders were involved. Yeah. And, you know, with the aim of that, the Tier 2 may materialise out of that when we look at everything all at one time. And as I said earlier on, like some of the findings from that group, I'm sure many of you have seen it, and you'll see more of it over the next number of months. You know, I feel there's some progressive change within that, a potential progressive change if they make the right choices, or if we make the right choices, everybody involved. And within that, then, you know, there was different formats that would have lent to a Tier 2 that, you know, would be or potentially be attractive. So, you know, this year is going to be a funny year because of the way it's structured, but hopefully we can, you know, get to Special Congress, get a really productive new championship structure overall in place, and with that then a Tier 1 and a Tier 2 competition that does appeal to the players, but ultimately, you know, it's their choice. Though. But for 2020, you know, it's a bit of a limbo year with regards to our last year in the current format, and we'll just have to see how it goes. And there's ongoing discussions with players in that regard at the moment.
I better give it due respect and call it by its name. It's the Tailteann Cup, which
apologies,
yeah, no, it's my misgiving. I forgot to mention that, and media owes a duty of care to that competition too if it's going to succeed. In terms of players then drifting away from the game, AFL have taken a few of our stars lately, our starlets, particularly the Dingle guys down in County Kerry. Can you see why they would leave, Paul, with the carrot that they have in a different land? I mean, what sort of a scenario are they leaving here, and what sort of a scenario do they face down under?
Yeah, like firstly, like I'd say it is difficult for the counties, and the clubs there, when these guys do leave. But like when you look at it from a player's perspective, it's a fantastic opportunity that's being presented to them. They're and firstly, and also it's it's an indictment on the training and the coaching that these guys have got, both underage and at their club, that they've set these individuals up to be benchmarked against professional athletes ultimately, and they're being cherry picked as has been well reported, but the opportunity that's been presented over there, like if a guy gets a rookie contract over there, it's 90,000 Australian dollars. Is a rookie contract, which equates to it's probably around 55,000 euros, and the average salary over there is 350 Australian dollars, which is over 200,000 euro.
Wow.
So the carrot is is significant, and as I said earlier on with regards to guys, if they opt in or opt out of a squad, whether it's to go travelling the world or whether it's to go play AFL, it is ultimately their choice. The onus is on us is to set the game up that it's an attractive proposition here, and that it's a sustainable, enjoyable game, attractive opportunity for them here that makes their decision really, really hard. And the work that we do, we've got a very strong relationship with the AFL Players Association. Paul Marsh, he's their CEO, ongoing communications with him, and to ensure that players who don't make it and who are coming back over, that we're supporting them and we're helping them with that transition over, because that's quite difficult. And we've helped a number of players over the last number of years, and we continue to have dialogue with players that maybe be thinking about it, or who are over there, and you keep checked in with the AFL Players Association so that transition is smooth. So I think we can, it's not. I'm not saying it's all positive, but I just think the onus on us is to set the game up that it is positive for them to stay, and when they are coming back, that we're learning from them, the professional sports, and taking learnings and growing the game.
You're a Fingalians man behind it all, and you played hurling for them as well recently enough. Strip away all your success and your titles and bring it back to the club. Do you have sympathy for a club who loses a player, Paul? And I know it's pie in the sky stuff because we're an amateur association. But is there any sort of a gesture that the AFL clubs could make to these domestic clubs here for losing a player effectively?
Yeah, like it's a good point. I suppose it's probably more of a kind of an issue for the GAA to decide whether that's something that they want to pursue. But it would be a nice gesture, I suppose, from the clubs over there about building relationships. But again, it's more of a GAA issue than our own. But
okay. Just going to ask you about the GPA initiatives that you're coming through, and to me it seems a lot of the time, no matter what you guys come out with, there's an onslaught of criticism immediately from some quarters. People are starting to see your message a bit maybe slower but steadier on the other side of things. How do you deal with that? Knowing that maybe you've got some really good welfare and education programs for a start, but yet you're being panned for another issue. So do you take that personally enough, or are you kind of steeling yourself towards that in the position that you're in?
I try not to take it personally, I suppose it's good learning as a player that I didn't take, the highs personally, and I tried not to take the lows personally either. From that perspective in the media, and it's a little bit similar. We just need to believe in our purpose and what we're here to do. We've got three pillars: player representation, player welfare, and player development. And every day, we're working with players. They're at the centre of everything that we do to ensure that their experience through the game is positive. And we have a lot of work to do in that regards to make it a more positive experience. I always had the same when I was playing, is to enjoy the journey, and we need to set it up that these guys can enjoy the journey and that they have a really positive experience through the game. So obviously there's going to be a negative reports at times, and they typically centre around funding. But what we need to do is, and the onus again is on us, is to bring the stories of players to life. The work that we're doing, like what we did at Congress, where we tell the story of Neil and Luke and Shane Carty, who's been quite public about his journey back from mental health issues, and now he's flourishing and he's back back on the Dublin squad at the moment, or how we have 120 guys who've gone through a bespoke leadership workshop and course over the last number of years, and these are all fantastic initiatives. 500 guys who are going through scholarships as students, 350 guys who are getting personal coaches to help them with balancing life on and off the pitch and how they can progress as professionals. But
do you think that when the funding and the negotiation is sorted out with Croke Park, that you probably have to maybe shine a light on these guys and tell their stories to alleviate the criticisms that you're going to get about the funding that you receive, no matter what it is?
Yeah, I think the players as well. Like, they're keen to come out and tell their story too. And I know when I was a player, I was always, very focused on my career on the field and my career off the field. And the GPA gave me, an opportunity to grow and develop through courses, through support, so that I could, while I was progressing as a player on the pitch, I was able to progress as a professional off it. And more now players are starting to adopt that thinking. Jim Gavin, that was his school of thought right from day one, was you have an equilibrium between your professional, your personal, and your physical life, and they all have to be in balance. And they're not going to be in balance all for the whole duration of the year, but you have to be able to find balance, and it's critically important. And I think that's what we need to strike now with the current couple of players.
How can these young guys achieve balance when you've got a manager looking for them to be on the field or in the gym 5 to 6 nights a week? It's so hard. Yeah,
and that's that's one of the issues that we need to address, and that's something that we can do together with the GAA. And one of the things we've been looking at the moment, through our National Executive Committee, but also we've got a Player Safety and Welfare Committee, all ex-players and all professionals in the field of sports medicine. And we were looking at what is the optimal contact hours, or contact hours is a term that they use in different sports, whether it be full contact, but just really that field contact hours. What's the optimal hours that we can look at, so that we can start to manage it and we can start putting parameters in place? And that's going to take an effort between ourselves, the players themselves, but also county boards and managers. So we all need to work together on initiatives like that.
Fixtures is another one. They're a mess in many people's eyes. Top heavy this time of year for younger players. What's the GPA's perspective on the fixtures calendar, Paul?
Yeah, and we've trusted the work of we had Ronan Sheehan, who was our delegate on the fixtures task force, and we trusted that process, because we believed that, from my first day, I remember doing my first media briefing. I was only a week in the role. I didn't really have many answers then, but I did say that, if we want to fix the fixtures, we need to get everybody into one room. It can't be just one story coming in from here, the other in from here, because everyone has their own interests with it. I don't believe there's a silver bullet in it that everyone's going to say, right, that's the answer.
Yeah.
But there has to be compromise, and we have to reach a consensus that works for the club players, that works for the universities, and that works for the county game. And again, we just need to be able to fit it, and the schools too, and we need to fit it all in.
The half an hour has flown. I've got one last question for you. It's more of a personal thing. How are you doing in retirement from intercounty football? And I've spoke to a lot of former players that have contacted the GPA, and it struck me the number of past players. So are you guys keeping a proper eye on the men who've been there before and looking after them in, I suppose, their afterlife, their sporting afterlife?
Yeah, no. Well, first part of your question, I'm doing well. I'm really enjoying,
Do you miss it?
being retired. Do I miss it? I miss, probably 2014, 2015 when I was at the peak of my powers. I didn't miss the last couple of years when I was struggling with fitness and I was struggling with injuries, and not probably playing as much as I would have liked. And but that's sport. You crave that kind of being the best you can be. So I'm playing with my club now. I'm loving that. I'm coaching the minors. I'm loving that, and you just get back into it, and that's the brilliant thing about the GAA. But that transition piece is difficult for guys, and I get a lot of reward from helping players both who are maybe just in that transition period. We just launched last year for the first time a transition program whereby we are helping players with that transition, and it is difficult. People might say, well, what does that mean? But it's a difficult period where guys are trying to find themselves again and their identity in a sense of
They've lost
purpose.
easily in many cases. Yeah.
Yeah, and a sense of purpose, and so that really, you know, inspires me. I really enjoy that work, and enjoying the work that we're doing with the WGPA, and really growing, you know, the programs that we can offer to them too. And you know, I think that's, you know, a real area of opportunity as well. So yeah,
Great to have you with us, Paul, and I appreciate your time for the last half an hour. My thanks again to the GPA Chief Executive Paul Flynn for coming into our studio for tonight's Press Pack special. From all the Air Sport team, bye for now.